Hey, and welcome to iHeart Intellectual Radio, Black Conservative Radio. I am your host, Alan J. Campbell, aka the Batman, here in Gotham at the top of the hour. Hey, first thing, I hope everybody had a really good holiday. Enjoy. Everybody got their eat on, they got their whatever on, and then 9 times out of 10, at these particular events, fights always break out. Somebody says something about somebody mama, or somebody said my dad, that ain't your daddy, or something along the lines that my mama loved my mama loved my daddy more than he loved you. All of that kind of you already, people already know that does happen. So don't play. Don't play. um I had a good time. I enjoyed my holiday. I spent time with my grandkids, my kids and my grandkids, who were just adorable. Just adorable. They were just and they were just so broken up to see Paw leave, but he will return, as the Batman always does. Now, let's get to the topic. Let's get right into it. In tonight's title, the title of tonight's show, I kid you not, it's called The Three Stooges. The Three Stooges. And I say that because we're going to get into this conversation. We're going to get into the if you haven't heard, or you've been under a rock for the last 5 days, them three crackers down there in Brunswick, Georgia, got convicted. All of them got convicted. Hear what I said. 3 white men were convicted of killing a black man in the state of Georgia. Where in the hell does that happen? Now we can let's not be premature. It's not a matter of a celebration, because all families have lost something. But the biggest loss is for the Ahmaud Arbery family, because guess what? He's never going to go to another Thanksgiving ever again in his life. Ever. Now, these 3 knuckleheads, and this is the killing part, people. And this is one of those things to where sometimes our own words can doom us. That's one of the things why I always tell my children the same thing. You have to be mindful of what flies out of your mouth. You have to be mindful of what flies out of your mouth. So these 3 knuckleheads, okay, now, these guys were convicted. Actually, the jury got the case last Tuesday. Last Tuesday. The thing about it, what was so hilarious to me, was that these guys, it took the jury 10 hours. I'm sorry, 10 hours and 22 minutes to come back with a guilty verdict. 10 hours and 22 minutes. Okay. Now, most instances, people will, the defense attorney will tell them, well, okay, well, if they're coming back that quick, they're moving towards an acquittal. No, they're not. No. No, I have yet to see that. So with that being said, and I have to commend the prosecutor. Her name is Linda Dunikowski. She put on an excellent case. She presented an excellent case from start to finish. And her closing arguments, and I got to listen to her closing arguments. Her closing arguments was awesome. Basically, she used these knuckleheads' own words. Their own words. One of these individuals made a statement to the police stating, well, if he had to come in my house, I'd have shot the nigger too. And now understand this. Some of these, the fact that they said this in such a way, they said this so arbitrarily, so freely, because see, here's the thing. They're looking at this as a sense of entitlement. A sense of entitlement. Now today, to this, when we did to the show, it's probably gonna hurt some people's boo-boos, and your heads might explode, your ears gonna hurt. But this is one of the things on why we have to why this has to happen, because some of us have spent too much time babyfying and coddling a lot of things. Okay. And there are several individuals who are all gonna hang from the same rope. Okay, now I'm gonna start with Travis McMichael, who was the trigger man, the gunman, the gunzo. This guy who said this man, he feared for his life. Mahmoud Arbery was much bigger than he was. Listen, wait a minute, man. Wait a minute. No, what you were taught was that all niggers are being considered gorillas, and you have to treat them, you have to take them down. This guy came, the idea that you jumped in your truck, grabbed your shotgun, and ran out to and got in your truck and began to chase this man. This is the old South once again. But what's happened now, this is no longer acceptable. So Travis McMichael was convicted. What they all of these individuals were charged with had 9 charges against him. 9 charges. So it's roughly 20. The 3 of them. There's 20. That's 27 charges, 9 apiece. The most serious of the charges is malice. Malice and forethought, meaning that Travis McMichael intentionally killed this man. He had planned to kill this man. And the fact that the prosecutor pulled that out of the statute and not only that, but not only did she pull it out of the statute, but she used his own words. His own words. I would have killed him too. Help me understand something. Help me understand that. Okay. Travis McMichael was convicted on all 9 counts. Malice murder, felony murder. That's that in itself. Now, all of the, and majority of these charges that Travis McMichael is facing, they start at 30 years and up, or let's just say 30 to life. They start at 30 years, particularly malice murder. That in itself is a slam dunk right there. Then when you go to felony murder, then you move to that in itself is another 30. So if you're actually doing the math and saying, well, how much time would he actually be looking at if he actually lived? He would be looking at almost 270 years. 270 years. Wait now, but and it gets better, but I'm gonna get into that, and I'm gonna get into that. I don't want to go too fast. Moving down to Gregory McMichael. All right. Gregory McMichael, he was not charged with malice murder, but he was charged with felony murder. And let me explain to you all about how felony murder works, how it works, and how they managed to hang all 3 of them from the same rope. Felony murder is when you and several individuals crime, or when you and several individuals, you all are together, and one individual commits a crime, and commits a crime, and someone is killed. Say, for the sake of argument, the best analogy, you and 3 of your buddies, you all decide you're going to ride to the bank. One of your buddies goes in and holds the bank up, and at this process, a patron or teller or guard is killed. Okay. Now, the guy who was the lookout, the guy who was the driver, and the guy who went in, and the guy who pulled the trigger, they're all charged with that murder because it's called accountability. Because the other three did nothing to change or alter the course of that action. So there's a level of responsibility. Everybody's going to hang from the same rope, which is what is going to happen, has happened for Travis, Gregory, and Rowdy. That's the other guy I'm gonna get to in a minute. Now, that being said, the fact that Gregory McMichael, and this is the part that really that's really disturbing, for lack of a better word. You know what? I'm not. Let me rephrase it. I'm not gonna say disturbing. I'm not gonna say that. This was a sense of level of he had a sense of entitlement, a sense of entitlement. Gregory, who is the father of Travis, okay, used to be he used to work for the Glenn County District Attorney's Office. He was a former police officer. And you are in the back of a pickup truck chasing this black man down the street with a firearm. Not only that, here's the other part about that. After this shooting had taken place, Gregory McMichael called the district attorney's office and to speak to his old boss and ask her for a favor. And his words were, and I quote, "Jackie, me and my son have been involved in a shooting. Can you call me back ASAP? I need some advice." Once again, the good old boys are trying to, and so here's the other part to that. Now we move over to Rowdy Bryant, the man who was convicted merely by proxy because he was also there, and once again did nothing to change or alter the course of this situation. Now this guy, he sees his neighbors, he sees Arbery run by, and he sees his two neighbors in a truck chasing this guy. What does he do? He doesn't dial 911. He grabs his gun and jumps in his pickup truck and follows suit. Not only that, but his words also convicted him. He goes on to say, "I tried to cut him off. I pushed him down into the ditch." Okay, so Rowdy is he's charged also with felony murder. Not only that, but assault with a deadly weapon, meaning his truck. This was a case that the entire country was watching, keeping their eyes on. And the biggest thing, and a lot of people were very, very skeptic because of the makeup of the jury. The jury was 90% white. So they had 11 white jurors and one black juror. So, being in that position and you're looking at it, this is Georgia, the good old boys and all of this kind of carrying on. There was levels of concern, and there was levels of concern even for the judge. It was a level of concern for him because he looked at this and it was not, and he made a comment that this is not consistent of the justice system. I mean, there has to be equal representation, and you have three white men on trial for killing a black man, and the entire jury is white. Now, the funny part about that, the defense created that jury. The defense actually excluded and use what they call preemptive strikes. And what that is in legal terms is that you can tell the judge you don't want to use this particular juror for other for setting on for particular reasons. Okay, and that's a form of bias. That is definitely a form of bias. Before we get too far, I'm going to just let you all know that the phone lines are open. They are open. So if you have a comment if you have a comment or something you want to say, give me a call here at the studio at 708-223-8953. That's 708-223-8953 here on Black Conservative Radio. We are talking about the Brunswick case that I affectionately call the Three Stooges. And I say that because you just can't be, you just never would imagine three individuals. Even the Three Stooges, when we talk about the Three Stooges, they're not stupid. You just look at some of the things that they do, and you would, and you just like, the best word I could use for the Three Stooges, it was lack of common sense. A lack of common sense. And that's what this situation is with these guys, is a lack of common sense, lack thereof. And not only that, and I use lack of common sense very, very, very gingerly. I use that. I mean, very, I'm not, what this is, what the real meat of that is, in white entitlement. These hunkies felt, quote unquote, that this nigger was jogging through their neighborhood, looking around, and he had no right to be there. The thing about it is that Ahmaud Arbery, he lived up the road. That's the funny part. He lived up the road. He didn't live he lived just outside of of that little gated community. He lived just outside of that. And he was out for a Sunday jog. This is a guy that went for a Sunday jog and never came back home. I mean, can you imagine the terror that may have gone through this man? No, let me rephrase that. The terror that went through this man's mind, that he is being pursued by white men, pursued by white men with guns. You can only imagine what was going through his mind. And when he got close enough to one of them, absolutely, he did exactly what he was supposed to do, was to defend himself. Now, I'm gonna just sidebar right quick. Now, if any of you had watched the trial from start to finish or caught pieces of it, and when the one part that was most disturbing, and if it wasn't disturbing, it should, it's something wrong with you. And it was, and the video of the action, I kid you not, the video of the actual crime, the actual shooting, is, it was very hard to watch. It really, really was. But the forensic expert, he broke it down frame by frame on what and how Travis McMichael's claim of self-defense went out the window. He explained that in detail. And in the process of explaining that in detail, we actually, we witnessed the shooting. And not only that, but Roddy Bryant recorded it, and basically he recorded a murder on his phone. And not only, and the killer, and the part that it's not surprising is that they begin, after all of this had happened, they begin to show the video to different people. They actually, and then they put it out. They put it out on social media. Then it went viral. Now, the asinine part about this case was, after Arbery was shot and killed, after he was murdered, and they're standing, and they're standing around, having this discussion on what happened, who did what, and so on and so on and so forth. The police actually let these guys go, drive away. They didn't take their guns. They didn't say, okay, we're going to get in contact with you, this, that, and the other. Now, here's the other part. The district attorney at the time, who was overseeing that office, her name is Jackie Johnson. And she instructed the police not to arrest. She instructed the police not to arrest these men because in their mind, in their mind, and in the state of Georgia at the time, this is actually coming off the books. They have, and I talked about this some time ago. What these individuals were doing, they were trying to hinge this murder on self-defense and a citizen's arrest. Now we have to understand the term citizen's arrest. We have to understand what that means and how it works. Okay. Now, the breakdown is this: the McMichaels and Bryant were trying to say that they were trying to effect a citizen's arrest. Now, here's how a citizen arrest works. First and foremost, in order for that to work, you have to have physically and visually witnessed a crime, such as someone stealing something from a store or a location or vehicle. You witnessed a crime, such as someone being assaulted, someone being beaten, things of that nature. Then, only then, and not only that, but you must take that, you got to take that person into custody right away. You can't wait 5 minutes and say, oh, well, this, that, and the other, because, and also too, it does not allow you to chase this individual either. You have to take them into custody right away. Meaning that if you happen to witness someone jumping on another person and you want to hold on to them until police arrive, that is a citizen's arrest. They tried to play that card and it didn't work because neither one of these men saw Ahmaud Arbery steal anything. They were going off a video and what someone else had told them. The secondhand information, you can't use that. You cannot use that at all. You cannot. Briefly. Hey, welcome to the show. Who do I have and where you calling from?
All right, this is Jay from Georgia.
Oh, all right, Georgia. All right. Let's go.
So I think there's a very critical thing that you might be overlooking. It's not the fact that these guys were three Stooges or three super entitled white men who were riding around the neighborhood trying to be big, bad, really badasses. No, I think we're missing it because there is a statute that has been on the books throughout the United States. It actually started in the 1600s in the Virginia Black Codes, which first of all established that Black people were not to hold or to possess anything that white people could perceive as a weapon. First thing, it's been on the books since 1610 in the Virginia Black Codes. Okay. It also further goes on to state that white men are bound by duty to protect their community in the form of armed militia. Key word is militia. See, and once again, because we don't understand their coded language, we keep trying to throw out words that we barely understand. It's not entitlement. That's the wrong phrase. They were operating under the guise, as they thought, of white men who were functioning at or under the duty of a militia, because a militia is a group or a band of men or citizens.
Citizens, right.
To be very clear, citizens who are armed and have been in some form deputized to police and govern their particular community. Okay? That is why they were not arrested on sight. These men have shall we say, the coded card of acting as militiamen, not vigilantes. You take your black ass out there, you're a vigilante. Why? Because you're not given the same access and understanding or, benefits and privileges as a citizen because you're not one. So you're a vigilante.
Right.
They are citizens, which means that they were under the code of law. And when I say the code of law, I'm talking about their coded language that we have not understood. That is how they operate, which says that they are deputized to operate in that capacity to protect and defend their communities if and as armed as necessary. The first group of watchmen or neighborhood watch neighborhood policing was a mandate for the community that any white male over the age of 21 who owned property was to assist in the pursuit, capture, and the registration of any loose or unregistered colored person. Slave patrol, basically.
Right.
Slave patrol was the first community policing. That's where you get the term community policing, because they were deputized to patrol their particular communities for loose or lost slaves and to return them to their appropriate master as a service to the community.
Right.
See, until you understand their coded language, that's why you keep getting emotional and keep not understanding how they get by. You playing a game where you don't know the codes. It's like playing for the people who play games. It's like when you're trying to play games and you don't know the cheat codes.
Right. Right.
We don't know the cheat codes. So until you get that, we have to understand that. And the reason why we don't know the cheat codes is because our own people keep changing the code.
That
it's
is
been out there. Everybody knows the code but us.
That's
and the
very
reason
true.
why we don't know it is because our own people keep changing it.
That is very true.
Now, I'll tell you this much. I think that was a very smart play on the prosecution, because if you notice, in the course of that trial, they never focused on race. They didn't focus on his past potential criminal history or his past incidences with the police at all. That wasn't relevant. His race wasn't relevant. What was relevant, his ability or his personhood was assaulted.
Right. I'm gonna throw this. This is a small clip. I'm gonna read this right quick, people. And as Georgia was saying, the lead prosecutor, her name is Linda Dunikowski, and she said in her closing arguments, which is, that was the best closing I've ever seen, and I've seen some cases. She goes on to say, all three of these defendants made assumptions about what was going on that day, and they made their decision to attack Ahmaud Arbery in their driveway because he was a black man running down the street. That is exactly what she said. And the point being, and this is the part to where now you add the hate crimes, the hate crime is attached to that. And this is going to go to federal, and I'm going to get to that in the second half. And when you go back, and this is one of the reasons on why they were able to get the type of charges and the conviction, because when you talk about, as I said earlier, one count of the count of malice murder, as I said, it alleges the intent to kill. He had and going to the part to where these people had made a decision in their driveway. We're gonna.
they made a decision before then.
No, well, no, right.
The decision was made when they picked up their guns and went in pursuit.
Right.
The decision was made. The action is what really hemmed them in, but the decision was made because, again, the coded language says we have a loose dog in the park, and it is our job as the guardians of such community to take these animals down.
Right. And this goes to...
Until you understand the coded language, quit this foolishness of we shall overcome and kumbaya. We all gonna sit at the welcome table with milk and honey and crack open graham crackers on the dotted lines and be equal. That doesn't exist.
This goes to what you just said. Also, one of the defense attorneys, Jason Sheffield, for Travis, said his client believed at the time. This goes to what you said. His client believed at the time that Arbery had committed a burglary and, quote, had the right to perform a citizen's arrest. And not only that, you do have the right to have a firearm when you make an arrest. You do have the right to stop a person and hold and detain them. This is the part of what you just said. This of the part of having this, we are the militia. We're going to do what we're going to do. Nobody's going to tell us, and no one's going to tell us differently.
No, it's not that we're going to do what we're going to do. A militia has a duty to protect and defend the community based upon how they assess that a threat has been established that threatens the commonwealth of that peace and stability of a community. See, again, we got to understand the coded language. Right.
And I mean, this is pretty, I mean, it's pretty much right here. Like you said, like you just said, the whole idea is that this is what they took this upon themselves. We are the protectors of this community. That's when we're going to do it. And this is what we did. Now, the other part is that the fact that it took more than 2 months for these individuals to be charged. And that was because at the time, the prosecutor who was at the time, she showed, and this is the thing that where she's catching up because she's charged with violating the oath of office. Now, when all three of these guys were convicted, these guys went right into custody. It wasn't no going in the point. And the funny part about it is that it happened last Wednesday, just before Thanksgiving. So you're not going to get any turkey. You're not going to get that. You're going to get a choke sandwich and a glass of booty juice. That's exactly what you're going to get.
They got some turkey and stuffing, all right. And it's going to be a long Thanksgiving for them.
This is just one of those things that now, and I made the I said that people have to we have to start this particular part, and we can't. This is not so much as a celebration, and it's not. What it is that we're now the tide has changed to where white people, certain levels of we just lost him, but he probably 9 times out of 10 he will probably call back. But meantime, while we got that, we're gonna take us here a little break. I got take a little break here to pay some bills. Hey, if you are hungry, you want something to eat, really good food, get down to Captain Hook's at 85th and Cottage Grove, 103rd and King Drive, and 15922 South Kedzie in Markham, Illinois. Captain Hook's fish and chicken. Okay, we'll be right back here on Black Conservative Radio.
Let's go. Atomic batteries to power. Turbines to speed.
Roger. Ready to move out.
These niggas thinking they ain't crazy out here. Y'all gotta pardon me tonight. I feel like a superhero up in here. When the spit, gotta hit him, gotta get him like new shit. They call me Batman, cause the black mask is on my face. Gun up on my waist, booted and suited in them black case. I'm looking for some hood rats that I take to the back cave. Y'all lame like blank man, while I'm steady serving them like pistol on my utility belt. Like, yeah, I keep my identity to myself. Like, you don't want me to grab that thing from the shelf. Like, I call them robbing, cause that's my only help, right? Okay.
Hey, and welcome back to iHeart Intellectual Radio, Black Conservative Radio. I am your host, Alan J. Campbell, aka The Dark Knight, here at the bottom of the hour. So, back to what we were talking about. These individuals committed this crime, and that's exactly what this is, a crime. When they did that, they were not taken into custody immediately. Now, if this had been me or you or anybody else, we that's what's happening. We're getting taken in, without a doubt. Without a doubt, that is going to happen. Make no mistake about it. Make no mistake about it. So that being said, after the shooting, and as I said earlier, Gregory McMichael called his former boss, who the prosecutor happened to be at that time. Her name was Jackie Johnson. Jackie Johnson is now the former district attorney for Glenn County. Jackie Johnson was indicted in September, and she's accused of obstructing, and she's accused of obstruction of justice, meaning that she instructed the officers to not arrest Travis, who had pulled the trigger. And I'm gonna say that again. She obstructed police officers from arresting Travis and showed, quote, favor to Greg McMichael, who had previously worked in her office. According to the indictment, Johnson was the first of four prosecutors to be charged in this case. The fact of the matter that this case kept being ping pong from prosecutor to prosecutor to prosecutor because of the good old boy nature. Nobody really wanted to touch that. Nobody wanted to. And see if as we've talked before about the fact of the matter that how justice is supposed to work for everyone, but not for niggers. Key word, and I use that word, and I use that word purposely. Operative word, not for blacks. It doesn't work that way for us. It never has. But this is one of those instances where justice did work. The justice system worked. And as I said before, I love the law. I love the law. And when it works, it's fantastic. When it works, it is absolutely fantastic. And this is one of those instances to where the law worked. The law worked. I'm gonna go, and some of you, if you're not familiar with the list of charges on the charges on what these individuals got, and it was this is why the litany of charges and the number of years that is going to happen. Now, as I said, Travis was charged with, as I said before, malice murder, meaning that this was intentional. This was intent, and felony murder, felony murder, as well as aggravated assault charges. Now, the aggravated assault means that he got into a physical confrontation. Aggravated assault also means that he used his truck as a weapon. And that's Greg McMichael. Now, going to Travis is he was facing 4 counts of felony murder, which alleges in his actions caused the death, 2 counts of aggravated assault, 1 count of false imprisonment, and 1 count of criminal contempt to commit a felony. All of that, and he was convicted on all 9 charges. All 9. All 9. Now, the other part of this race, and that's going to happen, is that now they've been convicted in state court. Now they go to trial now they're going to be tried by the federal government for violating Arbery's civil rights. Okay. Now, here's the thing, and not only that, but they're looking at the same list. They're looking at the same list of charges also. These are 3 guys that are never going to get out of prison. Now, it's at the judge's discretion to whether he can, when he does sentence them to in prison for imprisonment. And like I said, when the numbers start, they're going to start at 30. These guys will have to wind up doing 30 before they can even be considered for parole. And at that time, okay, you got to realize this too. Gregory McMichael, this dude is 56 years old. He's 56 years old. 56. If you told him 20 years, you might as well sentence him to life. Travis McMichael is 35. So that means that before he's even considered for parole, he has to do 30 years. So he'd be 55 before his first parole hearing. 55 is before his first parole hearing. The other guy, Rowdy, he's 60. 60. Give him 30 years. These guys are looking at 30. They're looking at a 30 piece right off the bat. Now, here's the other. Now, when they go to the federal trial, that in itself, the fact that you violated someone's civil rights, that's life imprisonment. There is no number for that. But what will happen when this trial, when they go to when they get their time, because they're supposed to be getting their time in January, going back in January, I believe. So when that happens, and then they go to the federal, they're going to wind up getting that time. And so what happens is, so you understand, is that they'll be doing their time, because you can't put a dead body back in jail. These guys will never live long enough to do any of the time for federal. So what do is that what the judge is going to subject to do is run their times concurrently. That means at the same time. At the same time. But the other thing, the other thing that we have to, we don't want to lose focus on is that that we have to. This is a very good example that not all white people are bad, not all black people are. It's a balance. And what happened? And then what has happened is that you had several people. You had 12 people, 12 jurors. Didn't matter whether they were white or black, but you had 12 jurors who saw what everyone else saw. Who saw a man, a human being, running down the street or jogging down the street, and he's being accosted by 3 white men who feels that he should not be in their neighborhood. And see, there's a lot of things that even some white people are tired of other white people doing. It's no different like with us. There's a lot of us as blacks, we're tired of a lot of things that other blacks are doing. The drugs and the killings and all of this kind of carrying on, because not all of us are like that. And these people kind of put a point on that by making that clear, that not all of us are like these knuckleheads that are riding around with shotguns in the back of their trucks and hunting people down. This would almost be the this is indicative of what the justice that Emmett Till should have gotten. Because here's the thing: if you look at if you look at this situation, if you look at what Emmett Till, what happened with him, and the same thing that happened with Ahmaud Arbery. Here you have two black men, and neither one of them committed a crime. Neither one committed a crime. Emmett Till of whistling was accused of whistling at a white woman. Operative word now. Accused of whistling at a white woman. Once again, here we are. Ahmaud Arbery was accused of stealing something that no one even saw. Operative word. He was accused. You had these individuals, and you had these individuals go to the home of Emmett Till, snatch this 12-year-old boy out of bed at gunpoint, marched him out, threw him in the back of a truck, and took off. Okay, if you're looking now, you take the same situation, what we just had here, it's the same thing. If you were to go back and say, if we was able to do that and go back and say, we could charge those men that killed Emmett Till with the exact same felony, same charges that Travis McMichael is charged with here, and I go through it again. We can charge them all with malice murder, felony murder, aggravated assault, false imprisonment, and criminal contempt to commit a felony. Everything these men did to Emmett Till, these men did to Ahmaud Arbery. The same exact thing. No different. The only thing different is that was a different time when these men could do that with no repercussion. And not only that, but this was an all-white jury, and the fact that they were acquitted in 30 minutes of killing a black boy. You talk about an ironic twist of fate. The same thing, but here people are no longer tolerating the brutality that some people are perpetrating upon another. They're no longer there's certain things that are no longer acceptable. You don't get in your truck based on what you think you heard, or based on what you think you saw, or what someone said, or whatever the case may be. Now, all of the homeowner where the homeowner when they spoke to him, when he testified, and he made it clear. Now, here's the thing that they brought out, and they made clear. There were several people that walked through that construction site. Several people walked through it. Several black people walked through it. And there were blacks and whites walking through that construction site. You know what the difference was? Nobody called the police on the white people. Nobody called police. And the guy who the house belonged to, that was being built, he even said himself, there was no evidence that anything was disturbed or taken. In fact, he did not have a problem with Ahmaud Arbery looking around. He had no problem. His words were, he didn't pose a threat. He didn't pose a threat. Key word, he didn't pose a threat. Key word. This is this is one of those things to where, sometimes we kind of think that we're never going to see the right type of justice. But sometimes, sometimes if you pay attention, you watch closely, you do get to see it. And this is that. This is that. This is that. What this also does is that this puts the good old boys on notice that that this is no longer acceptable in the state of Georgia. Legislation has begun to have the term citizens arrest stricken from the statute, from the law statute. It's too problematic. And not only that, as Georgia said, this was a law put on the books that was designed to capture runaway slaves. This is what that law was for. So it meant that any person, if they saw a slave or knew of a slave that a runaway, he could capture him and return him back to his master or his owner, whichever you choose. This was that. This was three guys who decided they were going to catch. This was going to be the catch of the day, and these guys were going to be These guys were going to be heroes of the community, and they were going to be have a parade down the street, and whatever the case may be, with this black guy splayed out on the hood of somebody's truck like a deer. That was their idea and intent. That was the whole point of this, but it went left in such a way. One of the interesting things that Travis McMichael said when he was asked about, when you were struggling with Ahmaud Arbery, what were you thinking? What was going through your mind? And his words were, and this is what they asked him about that just before he pulled the trigger twice. I was thinking about my son. This is what Travis McMichael said. I was thinking about my son. Wow. Okay. So what about this woman's son? It's a dead black 25-year-old man laying in the street. And you're thinking about your son. It wouldn't have been just simpler just to keep your ass at home. Call, and not only that, Linda Donikowski said, well, if you thought he did something, why didn't you call 911? Operative word. Why didn't you call? You're not the police. Why didn't you call? And not only that, but she also broke down citizens arrest and how it works. She broke it down. So everything that they wanted to present went out the window. Now, the only people that were talking about race and trying to villainize Ahmaud Arbery naturally was the defense attorney, and they kept hitting on race. Okay, you're not going to score any points with the judge by doing that. You're not going to score any points with the jury. And they banked on the fact that the jury being majority white. But here's the thing, what they didn't, this is just poor strategy. But the jury being made up of 11 whites and one black, out of the 11 whites, there were 7 white women. 7. 4 men, 4 white men, and then there was a black woman. But I think what really got to the jury is the fact that some of these people on the jury, their mothers also, and having to put themselves in that position. Here's a guy, all he was doing was jogging. How does a jog end in death? Unless you happen to be jogging through the wrong neighborhood. And this is one of them. This is that. But justice has prevailed. And this is the part of where not only justice had prevailed, but the system worked. We will agree that the system is flawed. We will agree that the system isn't perfect. But that's all we got right now. And until something else better comes along, this is what we have to work with. This is all that we got. And people, and here's the other thing, and this is the other thing that we have to, and I want you to take note of, is that when we look at situations like this, to where this was violence against a black man, when do we get around to stop committing violence against one another, where we stop committing black on black crime against one another? When do we get to that point? When do we get there? Or will we ever get there? Will we ever get there? But with that being said, I see the lights flashing in the distance and the helicopter is about to land, which means what? That is all the time that we have here on tonight's show. iHeart Intellectual Radio, Black Conservative Radio. Hey, I'll give a shout out. Hey, my sponsor. Hey, Alex, hook me up, bro. Hook me up, because the Batmobile will be pulling up very, very shortly. Anyway, hope you all enjoyed the show. You enjoyed it and you got something out of there. But also, we need to look at what we're doing to ourselves. It's enough that other people are doing it to us, but we have to start looking at what we're doing to ourselves. With that being said, not my monkey, not my circus. See y'all next week.
Let's go. Atomic batteries to power. Turbines to speed.
Roger. Ready to move out.